I have to imagine that this back line is going to get a pretty good makeover this offseason. Like, it feels like we've had this exact same conversation with Peter Vermees time and time again. I don't know how much of a redeeming quality there is for this back line outside of Rosario can score on set pieces, but beyond that, there's not much to get excited about.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, as always, with my good buddy, Daniel Kooser. Dan, how's it going?
Going fine, man. Going fine. Glad we get a little bit of a break in this Leagues Cup action. I know last week we alluded to, hey, let's just not get hurt and go into this break here, rest up for MLS play.
Yeah. It's the Leagues Cup has come to an end for Sporting Kansas City. We will talk about that. Tootsie has come to an end for you. That show ran its course, and it was very good. So hopefully other people got out and were able to see it last weekend. Yeah, so
very well received.
Now on to the next big show. So it's good, exciting things to come for the Topeka Civic team. So we shall.
And then I'm retiring.
And then you're retired. In terms of sporting stuff and soccer stuff, there is, not a lot to be excited about this week. Of course, we had the Leagues Cup, that the game in Columbus that happened last week, Sporting Kansas City versus the Columbus Crew on Friday night. And we talked last week how this was going to be a relatively tough game for Sporting Kansas City to pull off. And, Columbus is the reigning MLS Cup champions. They did not have to play up until this point in Leagues Cup, and they put out a very strong lineup. And, we'll go through what all happened in this game, but I mean, there was a pretty stark difference in quality between these two sides, and it wasn't really close.
Why'd that happen, by the way? Why didn't they have to do a couple games in a group stage?
It's because they were the reigning MLS Cup champions, and then the Liga MX champions, I think. I don't know how exactly, because there's the Apertura and the Clausura and Liga MX. I don't know exactly how that works, but essentially there are a couple teams that didn't have to play in the group stage. They just got to jump right to the whatever this knockout round of 32 is.
Well, they were well rested, my friend. We knew how their lineup would shake up, and I was just, the most exciting part of the game for me was when it was almost halftime and it was 0-0. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at sort of how this game was going, possession-wise, it was heavy toward Columbus, 61-39.
Shots as well.
Shots was 19-3. So,
10-1
shots on goal to 1. Just pretty wild. And, there were chances for Sporting Kansas City in the first half. In fact, Sporting Kansas City was the team that put the ball in the back of the net first. Eric Tommy put the ball in the back of the net. It's just the offside flag came up, and it was offside. It was the right call, but there was a chance for Sporting KC early, and that kind of gave me hope. Like, okay, maybe we're going to go to Columbus and mess around for a little bit and might be able to pull something off here. But, ultimately it didn't end up working out. But I guess my question for you is, before we talk about, all the game stuff, just Leagues Cup in general. This is year 2 of the Leagues Cup. I think last year, in the first year, if I remember correctly, there was generally some positive reception of especially the group stage matches, because we were seeing MLS teams play teams from Mexico that we don't normally get to see, and there was some craziness happening and whatnot. I felt like Leagues Cup this year did not have that same level of enthusiasm, and I don't think it only has to do with the fact that so many supporters groups were boycotting it. I think it just sort of was like, here's another weird tournament that MLS teams have to battle through, and it just felt like the first year, sure, maybe good. Second year, I don't know, leave some things to be desired. What's your general feeling about Leagues Cup at this point?
I feel like I was more into it last year. I don't know why that is. Maybe the newness of it. Yeah. But I remember watching games that I had no business watching. I didn't really care about.
Right.
And I have not done that this year. So I don't know.
Do you think it also might be, I mean, last year Leagues Cup was really sort of the debut of Lionel Messi with Inter Miami. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, and it sort of translated to Leagues Cup in general, because we saw Messi, his game-winning free kick in his first game, and you're like, of course. And then Inter Miami went on to win Leagues Cup, and they were so bad in the regular season. So I don't know, maybe that had something to do with sort of the quote-unquote magic of it last year.
They won the whole thing, right?
Yeah. And this year, there's no Messi because he got injured and in Copa America. And it just, I don't know. Leagues Cup has felt kind of flat for me this year. And I'm not really sure that there's a way to fix it. And it's interesting because there are so many supporters groups around the league that were launching boycotts about the Leagues Cup in order to, quote, save the U.S. Open Cup. The Cauldron, I don't believe, did any sort of formal boycott. They put out a statement saying that they want to save the Open Cup, but they didn't do anything. Other supporters groups would walk out at a certain minute or didn't show up at all. I guess my thought is I don't think Leagues Cup is going anywhere, because I think Apple paid a lot of money to get a certain number of games, and Leagues Cup gets them a certain number of games. So as much as I think it's admirable what these supporters groups are doing, I'm not sure that it really has much of a tangible effect on the future of this tournament.
Yeah, you might as well go yell at a wall or something. I mean, it's just, I hate to say it, I'm all for peaceful protest and whatnot, but there is a sense of certain things that's like, I feel like you're spinning your wheels, boys.
Right.
Girls.
Well, and I think there is this passionate segment of U.S. soccer fans that are really into the U.S. Open Cup, and a lot of it comes from lower division fan bases, but even at the MLS level, St. Louis fans have been very loud. A lot of fans have been very loud about saving the U.S. Open Cup. But then it comes to the U.S. Open Cup matches, and you look at how many people are in the stands. I don't think that passion for the Open Cup translates to ticket sales for the Open Cup. So, as much as Don Garber may not be the best messenger or delivering his point in the best way to save the U.S. Open Cup is to have people show up to the games and not be playing in front of crowds of 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people in a 20,000 person stadium. But that seems to be even at Sporting. I mean, they got the semifinal coming up against Indy 11 on August 27th, but it has not been a sellout leading up to this upcoming semifinal. Even the quarterfinal wasn't.
No, so it's worrisome. I mean, let's support this thing, but we're not supporting it all. Right. Fill up the Cauldron, then fill up the stands. Like, I know these games are on Tuesdays, but it's like, hey, you can't bitch about something if you're not willing to be a part of the change.
Right. It's a tough thing, and I don't want the U.S. Open Cup to go away. I hope people don't think that I'm saying the U.S. Open Cup doesn't matter. I love the U.S. Open Cup. I was just arguing with St. Louis fans the other day about how many championships Kansas City has compared to St. Louis, and 3 of the championships that I was including were U.S. Open Cup championships that Sporting Kansas City has won in recent history. So I think it's important. I think it's just the thing that speaks above all else, whether right or wrong, is money. And professional sports in this country are a business. And there's no money behind the U.S. Open Cup other than ticket sales, really. And there's a lot of money behind the Leagues Cup because that was part of the deal with Apple as to why they got MLS Season Pass the way they did. So if the league's going to choose one or the other, it's going to choose Leagues Cup over U.S. Open Cup, as much as it sucks.
I would say so.
It is what it is. And now, Sporting Kansas City, like we said, if you look at the lineup that was put out, it was that 4-2-3-1 again. We had Caden Pierre at right back, Rosero and Robert Volater at center back, Tim Leibold left back. Then we had a double pivot of Jake Davis and Remy Voltaire as the 2, Shallowy, Tommy Russell in that 3 line, and then Alan Polito up top. If you were to point this lineup to me before the season, I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty good lineup. I mean, maybe a piece here or there on the back line you could switch. Obviously, Pulskamp was in there instead of Amelia. But Davis, Voltaire, Shallowy, Tommy Russell, Polito, I would have said that's just about full strength. That's, as powerful as you can get in this attack. And time again, as we've been saying throughout the year, it just doesn't seem like this team can really create much offensively. And then you look at what Columbus has with Cucho Hernandez and Christian Ramirez and Diego Rossi, and even in the defensive midfield with Darlington Nagbe and whatnot, it just feels like totally different quality, not even the same level of team.
All the MLS pundits were like, okay, there's no reason to watch this game except to see how many goals Columbus scores. Mm-hmm. Like, they were absolutely predicting that. I wanted to have hope here, but we are just not on that level, man. We are on a lower level here. I don't know where we lost a step. I don't know what year that actually took place, but it feels like we are not top caliber team or even upper mid like we were at one time.
Right. And I think what's so frustrating, especially like this is a really good comparison, Sporting Kansas City and Columbus, because they're both two cities with sort of a rich soccer history. Columbus has a lot of international soccer history too, especially, the United States playing in Columbus, Dos Acero, etc. Columbus is an original club, just like Kansas City. Columbus has won a number of championships, just like Kansas City. And these are two small to mid-sized Midwestern markets. Columbus, Ohio is not New York. It is not Miami. It is not Los Angeles. It is not Chicago. This is not a city where you can go to Antoine Griezmann or insert big name player here and say, you want to come play in Columbus, Ohio? And they're going to get very excited about it. And I think there is a lot that Sporting Kansas City feels like they can learn, because Columbus has figured something out that Kansas City hasn't, and that's how to put together a deep, solid team that can compete for championships in a small to mid-sized market. Sporting has not been able to do that over the last, 5, 6, 7 years at least. So I don't know. It's it feels like there's just such a gulf between these two clubs, and hopefully with the new sporting director and this new investment strategy, Sporting Kansas City can try to catch up and close that gap. But there's part of me that's also concerned that unless ownership changes their entire philosophy, that it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Not to be a total downer, but it just feels a little disheartening watching the way that Columbus, this is twice this year that Sporting KC lost to Columbus 4-0 in Columbus.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen.
Not great.
No. So it's just a little bit of a bummer. And if you look at, like I said, Sporting Kansas City, they technically struck first and putting the ball in the back of the net didn't go well because it got called back for offside. You were saying we're getting close to halftime. Okay, we're weathering the storm. Just get to halftime, 0-0, see what happens. And then, unfortunately, Cucho Hernandez finds Diego Rossi, and this is just a beautiful through ball, first time off of his left foot. Diego Rossi runs directly through Sporting Kansas City's back line. I guess they're trying to play the offside trap, and it doesn't work. And it's a free goal, and it feels like we've seen this goal like 47 times where somebody just runs through Sporting KC's back line, gets a free ball, and then they just tap it past the keeper. And feature not a bug at this point, right?
Right.
Just not much to be said. And I don't know. Again, just a totally different quality that Columbus seems like they're showing. But at least we look good in our Wizard shirts. I think that's the best you could say. So let's go ahead and let's take a break here since it's halftime in the game. We'll come back. We'll talk about the other three goals, and then we'll go on from there.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. Saving money should be easy, with no hoops and no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for just $15 a month with a purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it, and it turns out it really is that easy to get wireless plans for $15 a month. So to get started, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. There, you'll see that right now you can get 3-month plans for only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And if you're worried about keeping your own phone or losing your contacts, with Mint Mobile, you can bring your own phone number along with all of your existing contacts. So find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile right now and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNNOP. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Man, those Olympics came to an end this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise, my boy Tom Cruise was out there. How do you feel about Tom Cruise? The population is very split on their like or dislike of this man.
I mean, I don't know. He's fine, I guess.
I love him, so there's that. I love him.
He's not my favorite. I mean, look, I'm gonna be vulnerable here in a moment of honesty. I have not seen any of the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah,
so
it sucks for you.
I've heard that a number of them are decent.
Yeah,
but I don't have this affinity for Tom Cruise from those movies. The main things I know about Tom Cruise at this point are he's a Scientologist and he jumped on Oprah's couch, and Katie Holmes didn't really like him when they split up. So
long ago.
Right, but that's sort of my impression of. I'm going to be vulnerable again. I've not seen either of the Top Gun movies.
Whoa!
So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I just my impression of Tom Cruise is I think it's cool that he does his own stunts. Good for him. He clearly did his own stunt at the closing ceremonies of the Olympics, but I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're going to have like a representation of like Americana, sure, why not Tom Cruise? He
rappelled down or whatever that was, and then got on a motorcycle and took off. It's just like, that is the most Tom Cruise thing I've seen. It's amazing.
I was trying to figure out when he was coming down, he was like pulling something on his leg. I don't know if that was somehow controlling like the speed at which he was rappelling or what, but did you see, I don't know if you watched it live, but he had like something he kept pumping or pulling on his leg. And,
yeah. I think he had control over that fall a little bit.
Is it? Okay.
I think.
And then, yeah, he got on the motorcycle. He took the flag from Simone Biles, I think. Got on the motorcycle, rode it. I will say, though, as he's coming in, did you see just like a clip of it, or did you kind of watch the whole, like...
I think I saw the whole thing.
He's walking through this crowd of Olympians, and they're all like trying to take pictures. This one woman comes out, grabs him, and tries to kiss him. She's an athlete from somewhere. And like, I think he tried to like turn and try to kiss her on a cheek, but she had kind of turned, and he almost ended up kissing her square on the mouth. So then he turned and kind of did like the side cheek kiss thing. I was like, that would have been uncomfortable if some woman just popped out on, television and grabbed Tom Kiss and laid one right on his lips. That would be pretty weird. And then he flew instantaneously to Los Angeles, where the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Snoop Dogg, and Billie Eilish were waiting.
Outstanding.
I'm sad that the Olympics are done. It feels like this is one of those things where it'll be easier when it's in LA and it's a little bit more comparable of a timetable or a time zone, but I kind of like going to work and throwing something on my computer and just having Olympics go on the entire time.
Yeah, I didn't mind it too much. I mean, the basketball gold medal game was awesome.
Yeah.
With LeBron and them. And the women won gold medal as well. They both beat France. What a whole time for France. But then, and of course, man, women's soccer getting back to their winning ways. So felt good.
Mal Swanson gets that goal, and just unfortunately for Brazil, Lauren from the Kansas City Current was on the Brazilian team, so they get a silver medal. But hey, United States women's national team champions once again, where they deserve to be. Men nowhere close. It's just
nowhere close.
Bowed out a while ago. They made it to the knockout stage and then immediately exited.
What'd you think about that Olympic runner saying that Super Bowl champions cannot call themselves world champions?
Oh, the Noah Lyles. He's talking about the NBA champions. Yeah, world champions of what? He's saying, and then he lost his best race.
He said Super Bowl champions, though.
He was a Super Bowl. I thought it was NBA because he's been fighting with the NBA players for a while. That's why NBA Twitter, they've been all mad.
Well, because they won gold, so now they're world champions.
That's why they were like, hey, now we are world champions.
Yeah.
Noah Lyles, that, of course, he said he had COVID after his best race, so hopefully he is okay. He ran a 200-meter sprint supposedly with COVID, which seems like a bad idea.
Gross.
And
Tyreek Hill was asked about it today too, and Tyreek was like, let's race. And it's like, stop, Tyreek. We don't need you to race anybody.
All of the NBA players, NFL players, they seem to sort of be beefing with Noah Lyles. And look, Noah Lyles talks. He's a talker. Good for him. If I were, a gold medal 100-meter sprinter, I'd probably talk too. But
yeah,
I'm not. So it's I'm just sad that the Olympics are done, although I'm very excited for LA 2028. I'll probably try to go to some events. It's my hometown. I got a little bit of LA pride when I saw Snoop and Dre out there singing and performing on the beach. So
nice.
Fun. And they're getting rid of breakdancing. There will be no more breakdancing in the Olympics for the next time around. But they're bringing cricket, they're bringing lacrosse, and they're bringing flag football and baseball back. So,
that's right. Holmes back there slinging stuff. Didn't they get rid of breakdancing?
Yeah, they got rid of breaking, as it's called.
Breaking, sure.
LA did not want it, apparently. So it was a one and done.
Even after that Australian gal?
Raygun?
Raygun. I thought about trying to recreate that video because I was like, I feel like I could do some of this shit she's doing.
I remember I was watching it with a coworker when it was happening, and we're sitting there, and we don't know anything about breakdancing, obviously, but we're watching it, and we go, oh, this isn't good. This is terrible. I'm like, she's gonna lose 9-0, and sure enough, she did. And I was just like, I'm not really sure. Then she hopped like a kangaroo. I was like, I don't know what's happening here, how this is happening.
Yeah.
But if you have thoughts about the Olympics or anything related to soccer, we do have our text line. And if you text the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524, you can send questions, comments. What did you think about the Olympics? What do you think about Leagues Cup versus the U.S. Open Cup? We had that conversation before the break. Send us your thoughts. Let us know what you think. And once again, the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524. Send us a text. We'll read it here on air. So let's get back. Oh, one more thing on the Olympics. I thought this was funny because I want to ask you what you would do in this situation. So if you look at the overall medal count, the U.S. crushed it. We won the most medals by a not insignificant margin. But we tied China for 40 gold medals. That's the most of any countries. We both scored 40. There was a U.S. high jumper who he was tied with a New Zealand high jumper. After they both got out, they were tied, and they gave him an option. This happened at the last Olympics, too. They were given an option. You both have been jumping. You tied at this point. We can just call it a tie, and you both get gold medals. You will both forever be Olympic gold medal champions. There will just be 2 gold medals in this event. Or we can go to something called a jump off, and the first one of you to lose, you'll be silver. The other one will be gold medalist.
The U.S. have to decide?
I think they both have to agree. Like either it's going to be a tie or we're going to go to a jump off. The U.S. jumper apparently did not want to do a tie. He wanted to go to a jump off. He lost. He gets silver. Wow. So if you were in that situation, would you just take your gold, or do you think you'd have, I don't know if it's ego or what, would you want to say, no, let's jump this off and see what happens?
My ego is not that crazy, okay? I get a little ego with some things, but like in that sense, they don't just give gold medals to anybody.
Right.
You've made it. You're there. They're willing to give them both to you guys.
Right.
Go home. I mean, you did it.
Medalist.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've beaten hundreds of other people to get to that point. You've both jumped now so high that you both, got to a point where it's unreasonable for you to clear that bar again. You both are the best in the world. Take your gold medal. Yeah. Nick says you don't work that hard just to tie, though. Well, they did. There's a video from last time around. It was, I think, a jumper from Qatar and a jumper from Italy, and they told them, you can tie, and they look at each other, and then they just hug each other because they both realize they're gold medalists. So if you would have taken the tie, we would have beat China in the gold medal count. But we didn't. So
that sucks.
I would have taken the gold because then I'd forever be like, I'm an Olympic gold medalist, and nobody would be like, yeah, but didn't she tie with the one guy? They'll forget. So,
and if they did, it'd be like, yeah, I did, but gold's gold, baby.
Yeah, but where's your gold medal?
Yeah, I don't see you having a picture where you're eating it.
Right, exactly. Sporting KC, second half, it's 1-0. You think, okay, get a goal, get back into this. That's all it takes. And then, ball goes out of bounds. Robert Volader kind of misplays it. It goes out for a throw-in. Columbus throws the ball in immediately. Robert Volader kicks it toward the center of the field. It falls right at Diego Rossi. He gets it, free shot from distance. He makes it 2-0, 57th minute. It felt like this was the turning point of the game. I know Volader didn't do this on purpose, but how many times have we sat here on this podcast and been like, there was a dumb turnover in the midfield that directly led to an opponent's goal like 4 seconds later? And I don't know how much analysis there is to do of this other than all I could really do is laugh, because at this point it's just kind of like, yeah, here we are again. And it felt like at this point 4-0, a repeat of that first scoreline was likely.
Can't believe it. They must feel real freaking good to drop 8 goals on one team.
It's wild, man. I mean, I don't know. I could probably find out from somebody, but when's the last time that a team played the same team twice, even if it's across different competitions, and won by a combined 8-0 or larger margin? That feels pretty wild for that to happen. Yeah. So it's just frustrating. And then again, 76th minute, Columbus sort of off of a corner kick, they send the ball into the box, and really no good defensive pressure. And Jones gets a goal to make it 3-0 in the 77th minute. And then 2 minutes later, again, Darlington Nagbe plays the ball through the middle. Chambost gets through the back line, or excuse me, not Chambost. Chambost is the one who taps the ball in, but a Columbus attacker gets through the back line easy. Pulskamp saves it, can't stop it. Chambost taps it in. It's 4-0, wheels off. Not fun. Not fun at all. This is one of those games where I think, you just probably end up throwing it out, but if there is a saving grace, it's not an MLS League game, but MLS at this point, we're not making the playoffs as it is anyway, even if there's mathematically a chance. So Leagues Cup done. Now you move on and you turn your attention to what's left of MLS play, and I guess the Indy 11 U.S. Open Cup semifinal. So is the Open Cup even still of interest to you at this point, given how poorly everything else has gone, or are you just kind of over this season?
I mean, it's been such a break in these games, like the Open Cup games, so it's like, oh yeah, that's still a thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see. I might get excited when it rolls around. We'll see.
I mean, you have to feel like there's a pretty decent chance that Sporting Kansas City will beat the Indy 11, being a USL side, although they've made it this far. They've upset MLS teams here, but Sporting KC will be the favorite at home. And then, they're going to have to go on and play on the road against either Seattle or LAFC in the U.S. Open Cup final. So it'll be tough to win that hardware, but we shall see. In terms of quotes after this game, Peter, I thought we were actually pretty good in the first half, even though they didn't get a lot of true chances. But in terms of second half, he said we were disorganized on the first goal, overcommitted to one side. We didn't have any pressure on the ball. It was an easy run behind us, which happened on the third or fourth goal. It was the exact same thing, very slow to react. I have to imagine that this back line is going to get a pretty good makeover this offseason. Like, it feels like we've had this exact same conversation with Peter Vermees time and time again. I don't know how much of a redeeming quality there is for this back line outside of Rosero can score on set pieces, but beyond that, there's not much to get excited about.
Not a ton, no.
So, and then Johnny Russell, after the match, he said, we spoke about how to take away their threats. We had a game plan, which we stuck to for 44 minutes. Then we gave them one opportunity, which they scored. A team of that quality is going to hurt you when you give them chances. That's the only time we had a lapse in our discipline and concentration in the first half. They punished us. And in the second half, we didn't stick to the game plan at all. It ends up the same as last time. We got dragged out of position. We were out-disciplined in our shape, and credit to them. That's the second time I've seen them live. For me, they're the best team that I've played here. It sucks when you play games like that, and it just shows you how far you are as a team from that level of quality. That's disappointing as a player and as a competitor to know you're so far off a team like that. That's brutal.
It's pretty insane. I mean, I've just been watching the highlights again, man, and some of these goals are just insane. I mean, like the second one off a throw in, just Rosero just kind of lets him take that shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we know I mentioned, with Pulskamp in goal, it just feel, I don't know, it's not like he's not capable.
No, and it sucks for him because I felt like he got left out to dry quite a bit on this. Like, what's he supposed to do when Rossi's free a one-on-one and there's nobody within 6 yards of him? Like,
yeah,
even Melia, there's only so much you can do. So
yeah, that second half, there's not many highlights of us. It's a lot of Columbus missed chances, and there are three chances in the second half that were converted.
Yeah, it could have been worse. It could have been more for Columbus than 4 goals.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to be said in terms of like good from this match, but what I am going to say, my Holiday Distillery toast of the match, I got the bourbon right here. It's delicious. You haven't tried it. Holiday Distillery toast of the match, I'm going to give it to the captain, Johnny Russell. And why am I giving it to the captain, Johnny Russell? You might ask because he played for a whole game and, didn't have much of an attacking chance. I'm giving him the toast of the match for his honesty in the postgame. It's not easy for a player to come out and just say, it shows you how far you are from a team with that level of quality, and it's disappointing as a player and as a competitor that you're so far off a team like that. Holiday Distillery toast of the match goes to Johnny Russell for his honesty, and you know what? I think it's a needed honesty because this team cannot continue to pretend like they're getting better or it's not that far off or whatnot when the players themselves don't believe it. And so for Johnny to just come out and say it, sometimes I think you need the captain to show that level of honesty. And for that, I applaud Johnny Russell. So, agree. Not much more that can be said there. But yeah, it just sucks. And now, I don't think I'm really probably going to watch much more of the Leagues Cup. I don't really care who wins. Do you have any interest in continuing to watch Leagues Cup just because it's soccer, or do you not really care anymore?
Not really care. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I might pay attention though. Just to to the words and stuff, just listening what's going on,
just to see. Yeah, if there's nothing else to watch on TV now that there's no Olympics, I'd probably rather throw a Leagues Cup match on than NFL preseason football because I at least might recognize some of the players on the field. But there's not much motivation for me to watch Leagues Cup at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing that we're probably all waiting for right now in terms of Sporting Kansas City is, are they going to announce a new player that has been signed ahead of Wednesday's transfer deadline? Now, of course, a player can technically be announced after the deadline if all the paperwork and everything is in before the deadline. People on Twitter on Monday were freaking out a little bit because there was more signings announced around the league. Sporting Kansas City still has not announced a signing, but it does appear there is a new signing that is coming. This is not going to be a designated player level signing. It's possible it could be a TAM level signing. Don't know yet. But people, were freaking out saying it doesn't seem like they're going to sign one. And then Thad Bell from the KC Soccer Journal said on their podcast that there was a new signing at practice. So a signing is coming. Because we're recording this on a Monday night and releasing it on a Tuesday, they're probably going to announce Tuesday at around, lunch or early afternoon that they've announced a new signing because that's how this works. But it does appear Sporting Kansas City has a new signing. There just have been very few leaks. It could be a TAM level player. But is there a position that if they were to bring in just one player for the remainder of this year that could get you jazzed about bringing in reinforcements, even if not for this year, then for the future?
No, it's so hard to even. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even care right now. It's just whatever they want to do. I'll trust you, and hope it's for the best.
I don't think it's going to be an attacking midfielder. I could be wrong, but I'm guessing it's not probably an attacking midfielder at this point. Honestly, I would prefer them to sign a center back, sign a good quality center back. Let us see some hope. Somebody come in, step into the starting lineup, command that back line. Maybe he can pair with Rosero and calm things down a little bit, but keep Rosero's attacking threat. Maybe Castellanos can rotate in there a little bit, but just give us a center back that we can feel confident is a pillar in the back line in years going forward. That would give me a little bit of hope of like, okay, they've identified one of the key issues of this team and they've addressed it. They're still going to have to figure out what to do about Alan Polito. They're still going to have to figure out what to do about a number 10. They're still going to have to figure out what to do about right back. There's a lot to figure out. But I feel like a center back could be like a good anchor position. Okay, we've started to address that, and let's go forward from there.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll do that. We'll see. Before we talk about, there was a truly wild story around MLS that kind of started bubbling up a couple days ago. But we did get from our good old buddy Chip, the keeper of stats, sent in his thoughts as he does every week too. So do you want to go ahead and read Chip's thoughts this week?
We did indeed. Chip says, out of the League's Cup, but there is still time to look at numbers. The closing of the transfer window, as of this recording, is 2 days away, and personally, I'm getting the vibe similar to the Office episode Healthcare, where Michael Scott promises the entire office a surprise and then spends the rest of the day scrambling to come through with his promise. The employees wait for Michael's surprise, which he awkwardly never delivers. PV has said we're getting a signing, and I feel like we're all still at Dunder Mifflin wondering if something is ever going to show up. Especially after getting another 4-0 hammering by Columbus, I think it's time to take a longer look at SKC's defense and see what the story is. Median spending on defensive players is at 23.8% of total guaranteed compensation, meaning that the middle of the pack of MLS clubs spends 23.8% of their total compensation on their defenders. Sporting Kansas City is on the lower end of that spectrum, spending only 17.68% of their guaranteed compensation on defense. Current spread has Fontas, Leibold, Ndembe, Rosero, and Volader all at or above $400,000 a year in guaranteed compensation, with Leibold the highest paid at $600K.
Which is wild, by the way. I'm just Tim Leibold being the highest paid of all those. Stupid.
Agreed. While providing greater compensation and attracting a stronger defensive line is good, it's not to say that pumping money into this will solve all problems. San Jose spends 23.9% of their total guaranteed compensation on defense, almost $1 million more than SKC does, and they're still in the defensive soup. My hope is that having Logan and Ndembe back into the lineup will allow us to have a stronger and more coordinated defense. Though, as I recall, Ndembe and Leibold were both playing for that left back position, so who knows where our defense will end up to round out this season. As I've mentioned in this segment before, Sporting Kansas City has the ability to score goals, but not against Columbus, apparently. The defense represents the largest gap in the strategy, and with Jake Davis needing to step into the midfield and Ndembe out for a good amount of this season, and Sporting Kansas City still trying to find the Matt Besler defensive leader, we need to start thinking about how we'll shape up for the 2025 season. The sheer number of goals which this team has given up this season due to either the defense being completely flat or someone losing their mark entirely is not the badge of a professional team should carry. Gone are the days of Besler, Opara, Chance Myers, and the deity of left back Seth Sinovic. Sporting Kansas City plays on the attack with everyone on the field, meaning we open ourselves to a counterattack like nobody's business. And if we can't get defense back in time to either stop the counter or hold play until the defense can get back into position, I struggle to see the way out in the near future. SKC has given up the second most goals this season in league play, for reference, on the defense. Only San Jose has allowed more goals than us. Isn't that something?
It's not good. And that's why I feel like defensive signing, a center back, somebody that Matt Besler figure, as Chip said, could be a good TAM signing, could be a good use of those funds. I don't like spending a designated player on a center back, but a TAM signing, yes, absolutely. Bring in somebody, and hopefully Sporting KC scouting can identify somebody who's worth that money, because as Chip said, it's not like San Jose doesn't spend money on defense. They do. They're just bad at it. So, find that money, use it wisely, or find that player, use money wisely to get them in here, because Sporting isn't the type of team like an LA or a Miami who, if you swing and a miss, you're going to have another handful of millions of dollars to bring that player in, bring another player in. So I appreciate Chip for putting that together. I wouldn't have thought to break it down by percentage of guaranteed compensation per line. I think that was super interesting. And I was surprised to learn that Sporting KC's percentage of total guaranteed compensation was that low compared to the rest of the league. So that's pretty interesting stuff. So thank you for that, Chip, our good friend. And now into what could possibly be the stupidest story of the week. This came from Scarves and Spikes initially, which is an Atlanta United website / podcast. And they said, exclusive, MLS is planning the launch of a women's soccer league after the 2027 Women's World Cup. Multiple sources tell Scarves and Spikes minimum of 10 teams to start. MLS is looking to capitalize on the growth of the women's game in the U.S. Now, if you take that at face value, you do a very successful and good podcast with Chris Wright on KC Sports Network on the KCSN Soccer channel called Currently, cover the KC Current. As somebody who watches women's soccer as closely as you do, you hear MLS is planning to potentially launch what appeared to be a competing league with the NWSL as early as 3 years from now. What's your first reaction to that bit of news?
Well, it's pretty dumb. I mean, we've seen a pretty big growth in the NWSL, so by all means, let's take this men's league and make it about us. You know, let's put a bunch of men in charge of a women's league, and I don't know why they can't like put their support and money behind the NWSL. I mean, buy into that. Like that's what people do. They buy franchises in MLS. They start clubs and stuff. Go start a club in NWSL.
Could do that 100%. My first reaction was, well, this is very stupid. It would fracture the women's professional soccer infrastructure in the U.S. and threaten that growth just to try to make some money. But my other thought was, your league in MLS on its own is not set up for indefinite success on forever solid footing in the future either. You have a number of owners who are arguing with each other about roster spend. There's rule changes. Lionel Messi came in and there was an opportunity to capitalize on that growth and popularity. You signed this brand new deal with Apple. Like, focus on your own league now. Get your own shit together and figure out how to make this relatively young league sustainable into the future, how to grow the men's game, figure out how to fix the U.S. Open Cup if that's important to you, figure out how to get some of these smaller or mid-market teams to be more successful, how to reignite the passion of some of these original clubs. That's where Don Garber and MLS should be spending their time and money, not trying to steal some thunder from the NWSL. I just think I couldn't believe that MLS was sitting here thinking, well, let's start a professional women's soccer league just to make some money because NWSL is growing so fast.
Well, yeah. I mean, but also, is it surprising? I mean, that's what business is. You see what someone is doing and you're like, well, we can do that. I mean, and competition grows the game. So like you can put on your devil's advocate hat and go to the other side saying like, well, actually, that's just more women's sports. So why not? Like, what's the problem with it? You know what I mean?
And I thought about that too. I'm all for more opportunity for women to be able to play more women's professional sports. I think where my hesitation is this long-term more detrimental in the name of, like, do I trust MLS to build a sustainable women's league when they've had so many changes, so many issues? They're changing rules in MLS mid-season about how rosters work. I felt like it's not about making a sustainable league as it is about making money. And if the motivation is making money, but you still create more opportunities, you can have this whole philosophical discussion of, does it really matter what the motivation is if more people get to play? But like you said, NWSL is growing. They have people building CPKC Stadium like the Longs did here in Kansas City. There's interest elsewhere. MLS wants to really help the women's game, or they want to capitalize on the growth. Then invest, like you said, in the league. If NWSL is interested, have your owners invest in teams like the Dash owner do. I know Gotham plays at the Red Bull Stadium. Maybe the Red Bulls ownership group needs to just invest in part of Gotham if they want to get a return out of that. Here's an interesting twist to the story. The original tweet that announced this story, it's been deleted. Now, they cited multiple sources that have told them that tweet is now gone. And there was a very well-known writer, especially in women's soccer, Meg Linehan. If you follow women's soccer, you probably have heard of her. She writes for The Athletic, is a very well-known soccer writer covering the U.S. women's national team in the NWSL. She put up a meme that just had a picture of someone saying, total fabrication, pure fiction, wrong, not a chance, no way, never happened, no. So she didn't directly address this story, but it seems to be the implication that she's saying, this is not happening. And then Pablo Maurer, who also writes for The Athletic, MLSist on Twitter, he said he spoke to Don Garber last year about MLS's potential to start a women's league. And he said back then, Garber didn't know what that would look like. But according to his sources, the league still has no solid plans to involve itself in the women's game. So it appears, as much angst as this story has caused, the sourcing may be bad, it may not be accurate, and it seems that MLS, at least as of now, has no firm plans to start a league, let alone in 2027. So there's that. But what Pablo did say, and I think this is interesting, and if you're going to do it, this feels like maybe this is the way to do it, where MLS won't make people mad. Don Garber said last year that MLS is presently focused on its partnership with Apple, but he did leave the door open to an idea of an increased presence in the women's game long term. Quote, "We've been thinking very hard about the role MLS should play in women's soccer. We've been very focused on being as good as we possibly can, and we're still in a growth phase, so we're laser focused on doing that. That being said, I see no reason why MLS Next should not have a girls component to it. If we are building infrastructure to have tens of thousands of kids play at an elite level, why recreate that and have somebody else incur that expense? We ought to be able to figure out a girls component of that, whether we do that on our own or whether we do that with NWSL. We ought to be able to figure it out." And then he went on to talk more about MLS Next Pro in that third division. So my thought is, if MLS is going to get involved in the women's game, it would make more sense to do it in a developmental capacity. Give academies, work with NWSL to create more NWSL academies, create an NWSL Next Pro or what have you, where there is a developmental growth the same way they've built that infrastructure for young men, create it for young women to grow into the NWSL as the pinnacle of women's soccer in the U.S. I'd be okay with that, I think. So, I don't know. That sounded more interesting to me than MLS trying to create a competitor to the NWSL.
It is kind of interesting for sure. I mean, we'll see what happens, but either way, I think it could be a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think USL is actually creating a women's league. So there's going to be a USL women's competitive league against the NWSL. So
interesting.
There should be more opportunities there. I don't know if they've announced where the teams will be or anything, but it is what it is. So, that's about all I have this week. It's going to be a slow couple of weeks potentially in terms of Sporting Kansas City game news, at least, while Leagues Cup is going on and Sporting Kansas City is out. But maybe next week there will be a transfer to talk about. But I don't have anything else for this week. You got anything else for our good listeners?
No, that's it, man. I mean, if you guys do come to Topeka Civic Theater, I'm at Laugh Lines this weekend, so we got improv comedy going on.
There you go. Improv, always a good time.
Yeah.
Audience participation. So
that's right.
Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review. I'll read those live here on air and be happy to thank you for that. Make sure you text that KCSN text line powered by Mint Mobile. It's the KCSN hotline, 913-407-6524. Send us your question and comments. We would appreciate that. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03. Shoot us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com, and check us out on YouTube, KCSN Soccer, or via the Kansas City Sports Network app. But until next time, he's Dan. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
Man, I love Tom Cruise.